Myself, Law am Master. Welcome to the free astrotheology course. Our textbook is still The Celestial Ship of the North. The author is Emma Valencia Strayton. This is volume one of a two-volume series published in 1927. Okay, so let's pick it back up. I've been excited about being able to come back and do this. And my apologies too for not being able to be uh, to stream every day or even every other day like I used to. Um, I'm going to try to. I'm doing my best to do it, but my schedule and everything uh, makes it difficult, but it's still my goal. Anyway, let's pick it back up. We're on page 167. 167, yeah. 167. Um, so let's pick it up. Let's start with the first paragraph. Excuse me. Let's start with the first paragraph. So here we go. The mapping out of the heavens. That means someone had to sit there. Someone had to sit there over huge amounts of time. Okay? So maybe your father, his father, his mother, for generation after generation after generation, for how many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions, or trillions of years did they sit there and map out the heavens? See, we had no, and I like the way Dr. Ben brings this out, even though his point of view is from the point of view of evolution, and of course, he had to be right because he was working at a university. So certain things you have to agree to not disagree with or even promote, like evolution, if you're working in that kind of environment. Otherwise, they'll certainly discredit you and throw you out. All right. So why do they do that? Because evolution is necessary for them to maintain the mind control. It is absolutely necessary to maintain the mind control, the spell that they cast upon the world, literally the world. All right. Evolution is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, if you get rid of that, their whole paradigm falls apart. But anyway, let's keep it going. The mapping out of the heavens. This began before. I like the way the author says it, anterior to. So I think that's an old-fashioned way of saying something was before. This author, Emma Valencia Strayton, uses that expression, anterior to this, anterior to that. But then also Gerald Macy in his works, I noticed he's also using anterior to. So I think it's uh, an old way of saying before, but I like it. Okay, so during the Sabian period, our ancestors, for generations, mapped out the heavens. Now, let me share something with y'all. And this is a part of our culture that we absolutely must resurrect, must activate again. Something called the Ijaza, Ijazah, Ijaza. It is equivalent to a professional license in the corporate world. Okay, when I say corporate, I'm talking about the corporate nation states. Okay, the corporate nation states. It's called an ijaza. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ijazah. As a matter of fact, um, I have some information on it. Maybe I won't go. Maybe I'll come back and go through the information about the ijaza. But the ijaza is written a written letter of authority acknowledging your ability to perform a certain profession. For example, law, architecture, engineering, medicine. Um, let's say you're someone who teaches Torah. Whatever your profession is, or whatever your skill set is, the ajaza is a written document acknowledging your competency in that. And it is cultural. It's what our ancestors used to do prior to colonialism. Now, that doesn't mean that that's what we did during the Saba period or the Sabian period, but we did that prior to colonialism. Okay, so if you are a professional, let's say you're a teacher, you're a consul, Consul, you're a judge, you're an astrologer, you're an architect, you're an engineer, whatever you're a physician, herbologist. Uh, Felix Fortua writes 45 seconds. Okay. I'm sorry. Glad you are live. Thanks, Felix. I appreciate that. Man, it feels like I haven't been live in a long time, and it feels really weird when I have these spans where I'm not consistent. But this time is not. I'm not making excuses, but it's not so much my fault because I've had such a hard time going live. Even earlier today and yesterday, I try to go live, but the Rumble app doesn't open, doesn't open. But anyway, so I've been having a lot of problems um, live streaming. But let me go back to the Ajaza. So now here's what's in the Ajaza. Ijazah. And y'all please pass this, share this video with other Moors. All right. Or if you're not a Moor and you know some Moors, pass it to these Moors. Okay. So the Ajaza would, one, state who your teacher is, who educated you, where did you learn these skill sets? Okay. Who's confirming, or as we used to say when I was younger, who's co-signing? Okay. So who were your professors? And then the list of your teachers, your professors, from the point of you receiving that ijaza, who are your teachers all the way down to to your first teacher. Okay. And then who were your teacher's teachers? Do y'all hear me? And who were his teacher's teachers? And who were his teacher's teachers? Now, this lineage would go back. Let's call it academic lineage. I don't know how else to express it. This your academic forefathers or foremothers and fathers, right? So all the names of these teachers, all the way back to the Prophet Muhammad. So the Prophet Muhammad taught this person, right? And then that person received the ijaza. He taught all of his students. So you have this long lineage that goes all the way back to Prophet Muhammad. So Felix Fontuna writes, it's okay, no worries. I'll take teaching whenever it's put out. To be a good teacher, one must be a good learner. Hey, man, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad you recognize that. I'm glad you recognize. A lot of people don't recognize that. Y'all be surprised how many people who are professional teachers or even just a YouTube teacher, and you can't have a discussion with them. They get they think they know everything. Of course, when someone thinks they know everything, it's usually because they're insecure about what they know. It doesn't mean they're stupid. They probably have a personality where they feel insecure about everything else, right? But anyway, a good teacher absolutely is a good student. So the Ajaza records all of your teachers and their teachers all the way down to the Prophet Muhammad. So the Prophet Muhammad is the source. So what does that mean? If the Prophet Muhammad is the source, well, let's Google. Who is Prophet Muhammad? What's special about him? Now, y'all remember him. That's patriarchy, right? So we have to deal with that. We have to use our analytical mind, also our intuition, right? Because during the Sabian period, there was no patriarch who was divine. The matriarch, the matriarchy, was and still is divine. That's the point. So give me 1 second, y'all. Here we are. So I'm just going to read this from Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. Most people are willing to accept stuff from this source. So Muhammad, prophet of Islam, also known as Hamad Abu al Qasim Muhammad ibn. I don't want to read all of that. Hold on, let me just get to the point. We only have so much time. Okay, so who was Muhammad? Muhammad was the founder of Islam. So Islam is a religion and the proclaimer of the Quran. So that's the holy book, Islam's sacred scripture. So what are we to get from this? Muhammad was the founder of Islam. So every religion has a God. Every religion has a God and the proclaimer of the Quran, their book of laws, their history. Y'all heard? That's what's special about Muhammad. He was God's right hand man, according to their story. And he gave the book that tells their history and their law. Therefore, since he is selected by the God of Islam, he has authority. Y'all heard? He has authority. He has divine power and authority. So anyone who is associated with the Prophet Muhammad as a student, you carry the same divinity and authority as the prophet because he taught you. Because he taught you. So in other words, the list of teachers are traced all the way back to God. And it's all based on God's law as they saw it or see it in the Quran. Does everyone understand? Does everyone understand? So this is why the Ajaza, the academic lineage, has authority. That's why it has authority. Okay? Because it is connected to God and their book of law, which carries their history and tradition, their culture, their values, and their norms. Okay? So it's coming from God. Now, of course, for we Moors, well, let me not speak for everyone. Let me speak for myself. Okay? So I don't want to cause any problems. Let me speak for myself. I'm a Moorish American. I don't believe in any external God. I don't want anything to do with any external gods. Some mosquito in here, and he's harassing me. Okay, so I don't believe any external gods. I believe and I know nature. Okay, and I align myself with nature and consciousness, the Hermetic law of mentalism, and all of the other Hermetic laws. I align myself with nature. So my mindset is aligned with nature. So what is this saying? What am I saying to you? Circle 7, clock of destiny, workshop of the mind, which would include time cycles, right? Celestial time cycles, not linear, celestial time cycles, and the natural law of don't steal. In civics, we would say don't injure anyone. Okay? And and according to our ancestors, the Hermetic law of gender is the second most powerful force. Anterior to gender is the Hermetic law of mentalism, right? Which is consciousness, right? The universe exists in the mind of the all. The all, of course, is consciousness. Gender is involved in everything that is and ever was, formed, reformed, produced, reproduced, however you want to say it, not created. Because consciousness has always been. Clear? But it is the Hermetic law of gender and its feminine function of forming, reforming, producing, reproducing that is considered, was and is considered by our ancestors and me, and I'm sure other Moors too, but I can only speak for myself, as being divine. In other words, the divine mother. I'm not going to go through all of the text and citations because you all can watch the videos that I've done to see where I'm getting this from. Okay, so it is the feminine extreme end. So this line represents gender. So this is the extreme end of this side of the line. So this would be feminine energy. So this is the great mother, typhon, typhon, feminine, the feminine role, producing, reproducing, as I said earlier. All right, the great mother typhoon, the mother of time and space, the mother of time. So remember, cycles of time. Cycles, our ancestors represented as a circle, the thigh of the great bear, Ursa Major, the thigh of the great bear would be the Big Dipper today. Those 7 stars, as they revolve or circle around the North Pole, and the North Pole, y'all remember, is the throne of God. Circle 7, time cycles. Okay, clock of destiny, so on and so forth. Okay, so all of that is attributed to the Great Mother Typhoon, And then the masculine extreme end of the line of gender, this is masculine energy, the willpower, the will. Now remember, the will is the silent observer who gives the command, and that exists outside of the fleshly body, right, y'all? Remember, so if we look at our mind, not our brain, if we look at our mind, well, if we look at the brain, left hemisphere primarily logic, right hemisphere intuition, okay? So in the solar zodiac, or let's call it, I don't want to introduce a new term. So with the solar period, which we are in now, the solar zodiac and the solar religions, where time is kept by the sun, the ecliptic, the apparent path of the sun on an annual basis, 365-day basis, wherever the sun is, that's the season and the 24-hour time. Okay, that's the solar disposition. So in this period, in the solar period, the emphasis is on the left brain, the left hemisphere. We're talking about the flesh. So the left hemisphere, heavily. So what do I mean by emphasis? It means you need to be in your left brain. To be in this culture, in this society, you need to use your left brain more than your right. Okay. In other words, you go to school, almost all of that is left brain. Okay. Logic, things like that. And the development of the right hemisphere of the brain is thoroughly discouraged. Intuition is discouraged. Creativity is discouraged. Especially in academia, right? Especially in academia. Okay, so the workshop of the mind is hidden from people. It's hidden. Nature and natural law is hidden. It's discouraged. Both are discouraged. Okay, let's go back to the mind now. We talk about the mind. The subconscious mind performs a function similar to the feminine energy, right? Growth and development, right, y'all? Growth and development. So that's in the fleshly body, right? The fleshly body grows and develops. We interact with the environment and it affects our beliefs and values, okay? Or you can be indoctrinated. All people are indoctrinated, period. Now, you're not unindoctrinated until you unindoctrinate yourself, until you break the spell. So that's why my work is so important, because my work will break the spell without a doubt. If you continue studying with me, that spell will be broken. The solar religion, doctrines, and all of this, the Christianity, the Islam, the Judaism, all of that will be broken. You'll free yourself. Okay, so this is the function of the subconscious mind, and that's active in your fleshly body, right? We can see when someone is growing and developing, when even when they make better decisions, okay, or when they start to regress, they make worse decisions. Okay, we can see that. And then the masculine gender, is the great I am in religion, right? The masculine gender is the great I am, the silent observer, the one who gives the command. For example, the one who gives the command to move your little finger, okay, or to move your thumb. This is willpower. So what else is the will? You need to have the will to do this and the will to do that. But it's also the instructions or Torah. It's also the instructions or Torah, the instructions that are passed forward. Notice I said pass forward, that ascend, not descend. Descend is, listen to this, y'all. I don't want to get off topic, but check this out. The Sabian period, everyone is alive, right? Alive, in peace, cooperating with each other. Notice that. You cannot be in peace and not cooperate with each other. It is impossible to have peace without cooperation. Because after a universal brotherhood, if we say religion, it would be what? A drawing back to or in alignment with nature, with the Hermetic laws. And nobody's stealing. No one's injuring anyone. Okay, y'all? There's no warped self-image. There's no shattered self-image. Our ancestors' self-image was aligned with the Hermetic law of mentalism, with consciousness, with nature. They saw no limitation. They believed that they were timeless. Timeless mind and a timeless or ageless body. Okay? So I'm coming back. Okay? If I expire or when I expire, I'm coming back. Okay? When I expire, I'm coming back. There was no fear of death because it was a life cycle. We were alive. Y'all see it? And the expiration of the physical body is just part of the life cycle. You'll come back. Or you're still living. Consciousness doesn't die. The second law of thermodynamics tell us that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So who's doing the transforming? This is the feminine energy of the Hermetic law of gender. That's why it's so prominent. Y'all got it? The great mother typhoon. So it is the masculine energy, the masculine gender energy, where the instructions are passed forward from one generation to the next. In the scripture, you see what? You see the Most High telling fathers to teach their children his law, right? You should talk about the law when you're going to the store, when you're going to the playground, when you're going to do whatever you're doing. You should be teaching your heirs about nature and natural law. Circle 7, clock of destiny, workshop of the mind. Okay, this is culture and the duty of a man and a woman, right? So that's the feminine energy. I'm sorry, that's the masculine energy, the will. And no one argues. People who know this topic, they understand that the decision maker is the silent observer that exists outside of the body. And there's no equipment that can detect the decision to do this or that. It can only detect the electrochemical, uh, it can only detect the nervous system when it activates that will cause something to move, like your fingertip. All right. Okay, so during the Sabian period, for an unquantifiable amount of time, our ancestors mapped out the heavens. And there were no 12 zodiac signs. There were no 12 zodiacs. See, this is all new. All new. And of course, Libra was not there. But that's the one that's just obvious, right? That's obvious because Virgo Scorpio was one zodiac sign. And then at the fall of man, they were separated. Why? Because Aries, now I don't remember where I read it, it'll come to me. Where Aries was introduced into the zodiac. So they had to add another zodiac to give the opposite, right? Remember the law of polarity? So if you add Aries, you need to have a zodiac sign that's opposite to it. Okay? Because you need to be able to draw a line. All right, the law of opposites exists everywhere. So that zodiac sign that they included was Libra. Was Libra or Ma'at. Some people call it Libra. All right. So we're talking about the celestial map during the Sabian period. All right, and also its celestial or star maps. Okay, star maps. Dr. Ben talks about these a little bit. So let's continue. The mapping out of the heavens, the measuring of time, and the revolution of stars. This is circle 7. Okay? The measuring of time cycles, not linear time where time, starts, time is on a straight line. No, cycles, cyclical, that means circles. Circle 7. The 7 stars that make up the thigh of the Great Bear, today called the Big Dipper, as they circle around the North Pole, and the North Pole is the throne of God. So remember, that circle is a force field. Everything that is, that could be, and that was, exists within the circle. Y'all remember that? Everybody remember that? So that no matter where you are, or let's say, let me rephrase this. So the North Star is conceptualized as the throne of God. Then there are the 4 corners of the circle. Y'all remember that? The 4 corners, right? Remember the 4 corners? The cherubim. There's a cherubim in each of the 4 corners or 4 quadrants. And then what, y'all? Who's between the cherubim? The Most High. So the solar zodiac stole that from the circumpolar zodiac. They stole it from the Sabian period, or y'all understand it? Felix writes, names of stars in Libra are Northern Claws, Southern Claws, and Claws of Scorpion from the Mesopotamian culture. Thanks a lot, Felix. Okay, so everybody remember that? So the Most High is where? Between the cherubim. And of course, this is Ezekiel chapter 1, and I think Revelation chapter 4. Everybody with me? So what else? So God, or the North Celestial Pole, put yourself there. God sees everything. God sees everything, and whatever God sees, he can command, or vice versa. He can command whatever he sees. Because he's in the center, he can see everything in all directions. So he has eyes everywhere. Okay, y'all? So let's get back to it. So the measuring of time. Now we have the tail of the Great Bear, which is the handle of the Big Dipper, which is the minute hand or the pointer hand, the minute hand of the clock of destiny in the North Celestial Pole, and Soot the Dog Star in the South Celestial Pole being the hour hand of the clock of destiny. So now we're looking at the North Pole and the South Pole. So y'all, do y'all see the circumpolar zodiac? So we have, let's go back into the North. We have in the North the thigh of the Great Bear, which represents the Great Mother Typhoon, which is feminine gender, feminine energy, right? Hermetic law of gender. Circling, circling around the North Pole, the throne of God. And then the space is called what, y'all? The Great Abyss, the celestial seas, the celestial waters. So we have the celestial ship of the North. We have the celestial ship of the North sailing or brooding over, sailing over the celestial seas. Everybody got that? Now, this was hijacked. This was hijacked and weaponized and used abusively. Here's the celestial ship of the North. This is what y'all see on Elijah Muhammad's fez. All right. Everybody see that on Louis Farrakhan's fez? This is the celestial ship of the North. Okay. So we used to think about this crescent as being the crescent moon. All right. So this would be the North Star. And of course, this is the Ankh. Now, the vertical line would be the vaginal canal. The horizontal line would be the ovaries, and the circle at the top, the uterus. Okay, the Hermetic law of gender. All right. And then, of course, the celestial North Pole represented by the star. And then the crescent moon is what, y'all? This is actually the thigh of the Great Bear today, the Big Dipper. The celestial ship of the North brooding over the celestial seas. And this physical phenomena, by the way, this is in the celestial ship of the North, volume 2. Okay, volume 2. That image is on page, is this right? On page 33. Do y'all see the code? Everybody see the code? The image is on page 33. Let me show y'all. It's a smudge, but y'all can see, right? Page 33. Remember 3, 6, 9, and 12? As a matter of fact, if I got that, let me show y'all the significance of these numbers. For a moment. Oh, boy. I don't want to lose my thought. What was I thinking of? Measuring of time. Celestial time cycle, circle 7, clock of destiny. Soot the dog star in the south with its helical risings, telling us the beginning of each year, the flooding of the Nile, also symbolic of the life cycles, right? The death and the rebirth. Give me 1 second. The funny thing about me is that I can only do one thing at a time. I can only do one thing at a time very well. Let me see. I just want you. I want scholars, you all to. We've done this before, but I want to bring it back to your. I want to put it at the top of your mind. Uh, the significance of 3, 6, 9, and 12. Just give me a second. I gotta get my. See, this is a problem when you don't do something consistently. Too. Here we are. Page 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. Let me read this for y'all. The code of mathematics, scaling from 0 to 9, and 3, 6, 9, and 12 constitute the ever present code of law, which never grows old or ancient, is timeless. Neither earth, water, air, and heat, okay, of course, heat produces light, or electricity will ever grow old or ancient. Neither woman, sons. Who's the woman? The great mother typhoon. Who's the sun? The SON sun or sons? Soot the dog star and the south celestial pole. And the letters of the alphabet will ever grow old or ancient. Timeless mind, ageless body. Okay? When you expire, you come back. Right? The hermetic law of not the the second law of thermodynamics, energy can neither be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. The whole of which comprise one great body of the ever present living truth. Let me say it again. The whole of which, that means the code of mathematics scaling from 0 to 9, and 3, 6, 9, and 12 constitute the ever present code of law, the whole of which comprise one great body of the ever present living truth, which therefore is not a mystery and neither a secret. And then C.M. Bay asks, do you agree? This is in volume 1 of The Clock of Destiny. Let me show y'all this. So, y'all, he calls it the code of law. He calls it the code of law. All right. The code of law. Okay. Do I want to continue anything? Oh, all secret order isms involving religion, dogmatic religion, symbolism, and mystic passwords. So these would be the secret societies and all of that, are our own ignorance of the realities which dwell within us and about us. And so I'm here presenting to you, bringing back to your memory the circumpolar zodiac, the great mother typhoon, and her son Soot the dog star, the hermetic laws, natural law don't steal, cycles or time cycles, keeping time by cycles, by the celestial cycles, and the workshop of the mind. Natural law, don't injure anyone. Okay, so this is my whole point, to bring our culture and science back to us. We're talking about the Ijaza, Ijazah. We're talking about that. All right. So the mapping out of the heavens, the measuring of time, cycles of time, not linear time, and the revolution of stars. See, we measure time. See, we can measure time on a 24-hour basis. We can measure time on an annual basis. We can measure time on a 28 lunar time, 30-day lunar time. We can measure time every 10 years, every 4, however we choose to. Okay? But it should be based upon what? Celestial cycles. Okay? So the measuring of time and the revolution of the stars were conceived by the ancients, our ancestors, for the purpose of practical usage and human guidance. Of course, human is Han Uman, so we need to replace that with man guidance, which is what CM Bay just talked about. All secret or orderisms involving religion, symbolism, and mystic passwords are our own ignorance of the realities which dwell within us and about us. That which individuals have in their minds unexpressed is a secret. Having expressed to another that in mind, so in other words, whatever thoughts you have, whatever's on your mind, once you tell it to someone else, then the great secret has been exposed to the outer world. The inner world is our universal subconscious mind, which dictates to our reasoning mind. The reasoning mind is the left hemisphere, right? Left hemisphere of the brain. Thus, our subconscious mind is the inner world referred to as the all-seeing eye. He continues, our reasoning mind is the outer world referred to as the light of the world, all of which is derived from Woman, the great mother typhoon, the creator of all SONS, the creator of all sons, in the course of 9 months. Of course, 9 months is a time cycle, right, y'all? From conception to birth. Thus, Woman is the grand master architecture and carpenter of the body and the mind of man, which makes all ones Muslims. So this is saying even the hybrids are Muslims, right? If you got a body, if you have a body and a mind, you're a Muslim. Regardless to the shade of skin and color of the eyes. So CM Bay is telling us right there. All male babies are sons of 9 months from conception to birth. Not only all male babies, but all masculine. So when we talk about male, male is a reference to Han Uman, also animals or hybrids and animals. Masculine refers to Moors, Aboriginal people, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, okay? Whereas the male and female refers to the herds, to the Goyim, to the hybrids. Y'all got it? In Christian mythology, the number 9 have many names, most common of which is Nin, I-N-I-N, Nim, N-I-M, Nimrod, N-I-M-R-U-D, Nimrod, N-I-M-R-O-D, and Nun, N-U-N. And then he has a hyphen and then Catholicism. And he goes on and on about that. All right, y'all? Okay. So this is CM Bay, page 18, volume 1. Volume 1, page 18. Y'all can check that out yourself. All right, pause it on the replay, y'all. Let me put it a little bit closer. Okay, so let's continue. The mapping of the heavens was done again. Why? For purposes of practical usage and guidance. So, what are some practical usages? Well, one is traveling. You want to go from one location to the next. How are you going to do it? Through the stars. How are you going to do that? Well, you need to know something about geometry and mathematics, especially triangles, right? You need to know what you're looking at. Which stars do you see? What are the cycles? Not to mention the winds and stuff like that. We're talking about the mapping of the heavens, right? Okay. And in one part of the world, you may see the starry canopy looks one way. On the same date in another location, it looks completely different. Okay. Or it's different depending on where you are on planet Earth. Okay, y'all? So it wasn't done for religion. These dogmatic religions are the abusive use of that knowledge. Okay? The military use of that knowledge. So in other words, what I'm saying to you is that the solar zodiac and the solar religions have weaponized this knowledge. And they, of course, they've also added a whole lot to it. Okay, because you recall in um, the author in the uh, the author in the astrology of the Old Testament, the lost word regained, tells us very directly that masonry, mother and son, my son, not Freemasonry, but the authentic masonry, my son, only has 3 degrees. The other 30 degrees is stuff that the Christians, the Catholics, they threw in there to create their zodiac, the solar zodiac, and their solar religions. Okay? And they divided people. They divided people by doing that with the intent to conquer them. Many of you probably remember that when we went over it. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Their observations became facts and were recorded in their astronomical mythology. Did y'all hear that? Their observations became facts and were recorded in their astronomical mythology. Facts become mythology? No, the mythology were teaching tools to teach the facts. In other words, our ancestors came up with stories because stories make learning faster and easier. And the more crazy, the more ridiculous actually your story is, the more easier it is to remember and recall. That's the truth. All right, that's the truth. I remember when I was in medical school, that was one of the way I accelerated uh, my learning because I would create these crazy stories, ridiculous stories, but they were so ridiculous that they were very memorable, right? And I used to rehearse it, and various ways I would rehearse it, and I cut my study time by like 70, 80%. I cut the study time. This is in medical school. And believe it or not, that made me a lot of enemies. It made me a lot of enemies, a lot of envy and jealousy. Not because, well, I guess it was because, well, I don't think like that. I don't think that way, so I don't know what those people were thinking, but it made me a lot of enemies. But at the same time, I was able to do the things that I enjoyed, do the things that I wanted to do. Um, I was like a special case, not because I'm so smart or anything like that, but I discovered the power of stories and icons. So what's an icon? Some of y'all probably thinking, oh, y'all thinking religious. Y'all thinking devils and demons, right? And you want to condemn me. These are icons. Y'all see the images? Those are icons. So behind those icons are computer programs. I don't need to know a programming language in order to use the apps and other software. I just need to know how to use what? The computer, the icon. I click on the icon, the applications open up. There are other icons, right? Click on this, click on that, put your information here, and I'm just interfacing with that. Now let's go back to the iJad. Let's say me, I want to interface, for example, let's say with the Chinese government. Say I want to interface with them, or I want to interface with the Canadian government. Any of these nation states, I want to not interface, but I want to communicate with them. So it would be easier if I had an interface, kind of like the icon. So, for example, and some of y'all might get offended about this, but before you get offended or think I'm some terrible guy, give it some thought first. Let's say they require uh, you to have a license to do this or a license to do that. Okay, let's say that's their requirement. But of course, we know that Moors, as Aboriginal people, we don't need a license to uh, to earn a living doing accounting or earn a living doing any of the professions, earn a living teaching, anything. We don't need a license to do that. Or let's say if you haul merchandise from one location to another. Okay, let's say you do that. You don't need a license for that as a Moor, right? You don't need that. You have a right to earn a living, a birthright. But this thing about a license is very problematic for a lot of people right now. Clear? Very problematic. But we have the IJAH, IJAZAH. So we can interface, and I'm open to discussion about this, right? If y'all think I'm wrong, tell me why I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong and you have a solution to make it right, and share it with me. Because I don't pretend to have all the answers, not at all. So let me tell you what I'm thinking. So we have the IJAH, AJAZAH. Okay. So this, as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, this was what our ancestors used to verify the expertise, the competency of an individual. Let's say, well, let me not say that, of a man in his profession. Okay? That's the way they did it. It was the equivalent of a license today or letter of patent. I think that's what they were using in the colonies, or maybe over in Europe. I have to come back to y'all with that. What time do you close, sir?
Maybe 10. Yes.
10 today. Okay, thanks. Okay, y'all. So here's what I propose: how we can interface with these nation states. For those of us who have expertise in certain professions, doesn't matter what the profession is, whatever. We issue an ijaza, Ijazah. Okay? And it would indicate on the document that it is equivalent to a license, or or is or is in that context a license. Now, of course, we know we don't need a license, right? We don't need a license. We know that. But this will function. This will function as our interface with these nation states. This is what I'm proposing. And it's what our ancient ancestors did. In fact, from what I've been reading, this is where the whole notion of the license comes from. Okay, in other words, they hijacked it. They hijacked it, okay, and made it into what it is now. That's the origin. Okay, y'all understand what I'm saying? So it doesn't say that, okay, for example, let me give an example. Let's say I had a professor, and this professor taught me medicine, or the professor taught me business. Okay, let's say MBA. I got knowledge equivalent to an MBA. All right. So I prove my competency by working with him or her. He or she gives me the document that I'm competent in business, and another one I'm competent in medicine, whatever. All right. And that ijaza has on it has on it that it is equivalent to a license, or or for purposes of engaging with any nation state, or the nation states, it is a license. That doesn't mean that the Moroccan Empire gave me a license to be, let's say, whatever, to be a medical doctor, or to be a businessman, to be a merchant. That's not what it means. It's an acknowledgement of my competency in those disciplines. Okay. But for purposes of interacting with nation states, it serves as a license. That's just to interface with the nation state without a problem, because that's what the nation state requires. In the same way that in order to interface, in order to use the let's say the computer, you only need the icons to interface with the computer. Without the icons, you need to go out and you need to become competent in those programs that the apps were written in. Y'all understand me? Everybody understand what I'm saying? So we need to resurrect the Ajad uh, system. We need to resurrect it. We need to reactivate it. Okay, and then we can use that to interface with the nation states. It will serve or meet their requirement for a license, even though it's not a license, it's a ijaza, but for purposes of interacting with them, it's a license. Y'all understand me? Okay, everybody understand? Now, ideally, my thoughts are, since we don't have it, let me put this in context. You got a bachelor's degree, you got a associate's degree, you got a high school diploma, you got a master's degree, you have a PhD, you have a JD, you have an MD degree. Well, where did they start? Where did they start? There was one time where no one had it, right? The person or the man or woman or the institution, or there was a time when no one had any of those credentials. And the man or woman who who issued them didn't have it himself, unless he or she gave it to himself or someone else gave it to them, but they didn't have it. Y'all understand me? Everyone understand? So right now, amongst us Moorish Americans, I don't know of anyone who has the ijaza, Ijazah. I don't know of anyone who has it. But we need to reactivate it, bring it back to life, so to speak. It's our culture. So where do we start? Well, one, instead of the Prophet Muhammad, if we want to take this route, we would use the Great Mother Typhoon. Okay, but of course, we know the Great Mother Typhoon is a Hermetic law of gender. But remember, we are taking facts, just like with, let me go back to Muhammad. I hope y'all caught that. Well, I hope you remember. Muhammad was the founder of Islam and the proclaimer of the Quran, Islam's sacred scripture. All right? And of course, y'all know there's astrology in the Quran, right? Everybody knows that. So let me go back and read this again in our book. This is page 167, The Celestial Ship of the North, Volume 1. The mapping out of the heavens, the measuring of time, and the revolution of stars were conceived by the ancient Sabian Moors, by the ancient Canaanites, Moabites, etc., for purposes of practical usage and guidance. Their observations became facts and were recorded in astronomical mythology. Okay, so Islam, 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 Judaism, Christianity, the Abrahamic religions took this mythology, this celestial mythology, and created religions, histories out of this celestial mythology. That's what they did. So we need to clean that up. Okay? So we need to take it back to the celestial mythology. If y'all don't like the celestial mythology, well, this is what our ancestors did. But we have an option. If you don't like the celestial mythology, we just take it back to the celestial natural phenomena. But the celestial mythology is ancient and our ancestors used it, is well documented. So why not use it? Restoration of our culture. Restoration of our culture. So, for example, let's say it's you, whoever you are, let's say a Moabitess, uh, Moorish American woman. Okay, let's just say, for example, you are uh, issued or given an ijaza, Ijazah, let's say by one of our Congress. Okay, you get your, let's say you are let's say a teacher. Okay, so you get your ijaza for teaching, right? So you list on your ijaza, it has where you received your formal and informal education. Okay, all right. And now we need to connect it back to the Great Mother Typhoon. We need to connect it back to the Great Mother Typhoon. The same way we see that their ijaza went all the way back to who? The Prophet Muhammad. Clear? Is it clear? Which is an Abrahamic religion. So we take ours back to our own Sabian celestial mythology. And just how we do that, we can come together and make some decisions collectively as to how that's going to work. But the authority should come from the Great Mother Typhoon. Okay, and uh, well, let me just leave it at that. You know, that's at least a start. That's at least a start. Okay. So now, what else? What else? So the ijaza. So our consuls were issued in ijaza. The councils were issued in ijaza. All right. And as I mentioned before, the judges, everyone, trade, you know, if you had a trade, you were issued in ijaza to um, to prove your competency in a trade or profession. Okay, and as I said earlier, this is where the whole idea of a license came from. So if we are issuing, so we need someone to start. That's where I was at. So for example, if we have a Congress, Moroccan Empire Congress, or other entity, governmental entity, or let's say a Moorish American uh, who is a part of the Moroccan Empire, to issue the first one, okay, to resurrect it. So, for example, let's say with me. Now, do I need someone, another Moor, to do this for me? No, I can do it myself. But it would be better to have a Congress or government official issue the Ijaza, Ijazah, to me. Why? Because these nation states, they don't have any knowledge about representative forms of government, about governance. They don't have any knowledge about that. So to make it easier to interface with the nation states so that you don't have problems and you have to, when I was studying, when I was in business school, uh, it was something I learned. They said, I don't remember who did I get this from. It'll come to me. But I was taught to move in a certain way to eliminate questions. Okay? That doesn't mean hide and be sneaky. No, no, no. It means to be thorough, to anticipate potential problems. Move in such a way to eliminate questions. You want to do things in such a way where there are no questions. Everything is right in front of you. There's no questions. Okay? All the information you need is right there. Okay, so when we deal, let's say, with these foreign countries, we don't want them to ask questions, right? We want to give them all of the information up front. Do things in such a way that makes sense to them and that they can relate to. I can assure you that when you are moving in these nation states, they have absolutely no clue about self-governance. No clue whatsoever. They, in fact, they won't even, it will probably even be hard for them to understand. Why? Because they're totally dominated by their governments. They don't see, they've never experienced being able to make decisions on their own without consideration or without the approval of a government. Okay? So they would think that it's a scam. To speak just frankly, they would think it's a scam. Nobody can do that. How can you? And now you're faced with having to answer all of these questions and try to convince them, prove to them. And who wants to be in that kind of situation, right? So it's better for the Moroccan Empire or for a man or woman in our government, okay, or the government, the Congress, for example, the Congress says, okay, we're reactivating the IJAZAH system. We're reactivating it, we're resurrecting it, okay, and then the Congress does what the Congress does to make that happen. Okay, y'all? And now it's the Moroccan government, it's the Empire of Morocco, clear, that issues it. And now who can ask a question? Y'all understand? And then let's say, for example, let's say if the Congress issues it to me, now let's say, for example, I want to, I don't know what y'all think. I don't know where you are, but let's say the astrology, the astrotheology, it needs to be taught. The information that I know and I share, I should be teaching our people. Yeah, I should be teaching this information to our people. And then they should become experts so that I can then give them an ijaza, I'm sorry, AJAZAH. Okay? So they should become competent in this subject matter. And then they will do the same. Y'all understand? This is a must. It is an absolute must. What does it facilitate? What does it facilitate? I'll tell you one right now. This is a big deal. Most of you in the Moroccan Empire, if you are a Moor, will be faced with a situation where the grocery stores are empty. A lot of y'all are shopping at Walmart. I don't know what stores that there are over there anymore. But all of that's going to be empty. Why? Because of the 2025 Trump tariffs. Okay? They're going to be empty. Where are you going to get, let's say you live stream or you attend online classes. Okay? You do all of these things online. Let's say your computer breaks, you need a new one. Let's say the battery on your cell phone breaks, you need a new one. Where are you going to get it? There's no supplies. Why? Because of these Trump tariffs. Now, of course, this is the worst case scenario, right? It's the worst case scenario. You won't be able to get a new battery, a new laptop. You won't be able to get anything fixed. Why? Because there are no more products coming in from China or from Vietnam or from Cambodia. Yeah, I mean supplies. Or from Hong Kong. So now you can't participate in your own online class. You can't live stream. You can't do whatever it was that you were doing online because there are no parts. Y'all hear me? Well, what about the other things in your house that you need? All your household products, all of your electronics, even fruit and vegetables. You're not going to have access to. So, what are you going to do? You're going to go out and plant a garden and expect it to grow in the summer. You're going to have a harvest ready immediately. So, what are you going to do? A lot of people are going to suffer if these tariffs come in and the shelves are empty. You're not going to only have a shortage of food, fruits and vegetables, electronics, household items, cleaning supply, all of the things that you go to the grocery store, however many times a month you go to the grocery store, 80% of that stuff comes from China. And of that 20% remaining is coming from other countries. So what are you going to do? Agree to suffer or reactivate Moorish American international commerce, international trade? Didn't Noble Drew Ali tell us to what? He says, stand up. I'm paraphrasing. He says, stand up and join the family of nations. Well, the family of nations are trading, they're engaging in international business. So why do you need to depend on the US corporation company when you can go out and do international business and bring merchandise into the Moroccan Empire through the Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1836 between the Moroccan Empire and the United States of North America? You can do it on your own. You can be self-sufficient on your own. And whatever we have left over, We can trade with U.S. citizens. So now you have Moors in business. Yeah, we don't have factories. We have. You look at the Americas. Let's say North America. Yes, we have tons and tons of raw resources. Raw, but we have no manufacturing as a people. So what are you going to do with the raw resources? You can't even make a pencil. You can't make a paperclip unless you have the ability to manufacture. And that is not present. So what are you going to do? All of a sudden, within 1 month, you're going to build factories? No, it's unrealistic. Yes, we have tons and tons of natural resources, but again, we have no factories. So yes, we have everything that we need, but it doesn't do you too much good without the ability to manufacture. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So the Ijaz, the Ijazah, coming from someone within or someone or some entity, institution, whatever the mechanism might be, that issues the Ijazah, Ijazah, facilitates our ability to engage in international trade. Why do I say that? Because these nation states, many of them require, oh, and by the way, the Ijaz also has to do with travel. Also has to do with travel. Let me tell y'all that story really quickly. So from what I was researching, Moors would have the Ijaz on the ship with them, and the Ijaza proved their nationality. This is where the passport comes from, y'all. This is a solution to the passport issue. This is the origin. In other words, the passport is a remix of the Ijaza. Our ancestors who did not have it ran the risk of being captured and taken as booty and prize. In other words, sold into servitude because they had no ijazah. Y'all understand? Let me restate this. The celestial ship of the north, brooding over the celestial seas. Okay? Take that and remix it into maritime admiralty law. Maritime admiralty law. A physical ship sailing on the ocean, sailing on the sea, right? Maritime admiralty law. Look at this abusively. Weaponize it, make it evil. Going back to when I said the Sabian period, people were alive. Alive. Well, let's remove the A off of that. Live. Live. This is the Sabian period. Live. All men and women were alive, contracted to live. The world was at peace and harmony. There was unity and people cooperated with one another. We get this from the authors. All right? We get it from the authors. Now, during the solar period, the Solarites, the Osirians, okay, this was introduced with Pharaoh Menes, who Dr. Ben says was Narma, and that there were three others called happy before him of the human pharaohs, coming from the south, Nubia. All right? The solar rites, the solar period, the solar zodiac, the solar religions came in, destroyed the Sabian period, the Sabian people who maintained the mindset of our ancient foremothers and forefathers, circle seven, clock of destiny, workshop of the mind, natural law, do no harm, celestial time cycles, okay? Reckoning time and reality by the stars. The Solarites came in, destroyed it through warfare, through birthright theft, through deception, and they introduced a period of evil. EVIL, the Hermetic law of polarity that our ancestors discovered. Well, not discovered. Well, yeah. Well. The authors say they discovered it. We recognized it. How? They conceptualized the universe as a circle, as a force field, okay, and the throne of God in the center. And no matter where God went, see, whatever God sees, He commands. So let's say my palm is the universe, force field. So God, the throne of God is in the center. Let's say God moves here, okay. So wherever God moves in my palm, there's an opposite side. This is where they got the law, or that not got, but where they recognized or discovered the law of polarity, the law of opposites. Y'all heard the law of opposites. So these heathen Solarites, they're using the law of opposite. What's the opposite of live? Evil. The opposite of live is evil. Okay, this is why in the Biblioheliotext, anything that references or that has been or that traces back to Sut or the Great Mother Typhoon is presented as evil. So, what is good, honorable, dignified, holy, whatever good terms you want to use, wise, in the Sabian period, see, these are descriptions of the Great Mother Typhoon and her son, Sit the Dog Star in the south. These things take the opposite in the solar zodiac. They become wickedness, darkness becomes evil and ignorance, right? In the Sabian period, darkness would be considered wisdom and what else, y'all? What people refer to as God now, the ancient darkness, right? It's been weaponized. And through the Hermetic law of polarity, they're defining it as the opposite. So, for example, black in the solar period is evil and wicked. But black in the Sabian period is everything godly, beautiful and wonderful and wisdom, the beginning of everything, the source of wisdom. Do y'all see? Okay, so this is so let's go back to the ship, the physical ship sailing on the physical ocean, maritime admiralty law, okay? Brought on the land now. I should have eaten something. Brought on the land and weaponized, okay? And weaponized, right? And the corporate contracts, all right, y'all? So let's say you get caught on a ship, you're out at sea, for example. You're out at sea, let's put it there. You're out the physical sea, you're out at sea. One of these hybrids, one of these hybrids, or let's say their protege Moors accompanying them. Let's call them today dirty Moors. Okay, they board your ship. Who are you? Where are you going? License and registration. Okay, but you have no ijaza, Ijazah. Guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna take you as booty and prize and sell you into servitude, or what they're calling uh, connotatively slavery. Why? Because you have no ijaza. Okay, this is where passport came from. That's where passport. That's the origin of the passport, from what I've been reading. The ijaza is the origin of a passport. You needed to have it when you're sailing on a ship. Okay, so why not take that aspect of our culture and use it? Okay, and continue to use, because our ancestors used it, right? Our ancestors used it. They just abused it. They turned the ijaza into a passport and a license where they get to earn money or lock you up. Okay, so the ijaza, we can reactivate it and say that and 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 say that its function in terms of an interface between the Moroccan Empire and these nation states would be a license, or whatever. It doesn't even have to be a license. It could be whatever they require to interface with them. Sammy, it's, to me, is very simple. Very, very, very simple. And Ijaza recognizes your expertise, your competency, you and your profession or in your trade. Okay, it's evidence that you do what you say you do, right? And for purposes of interfacing with nation states, corporate governments, it serves as a license, just for purposes for dealing with them. That's all. And that solves a whole lot of problems. Now, in terms of the international business, in terms of international business, the Ijaza, just like with our ancestors, even with the treaty itself, it says it's a sultan issued Ijazas, authorizing or proof evidence that they were authorized to treat on behalf of the Moroccan Empire. Okay, so in terms of international business, this would be a professional credential that Moorish American merchants would use to interface with these nation states. So, for example, today, let's say your heir, your son or your daughter, has a chronic illness. Let's just say, for example, diabetes, asthma, what have you. It could be any of the chronic illnesses, or it can be whatever the situation. Let's say the shelves are empty because of the tariff war going on with China. The shelves are empty, right? How are you going to get whatever medicines your heir needs? Or let's say it's your mother or your father in the hospital. Okay, and there's no medications on the shelf in the hospital, and your mother, your father, without that medicine might die. Or let's say you yourself, you're in a car accident. It could be any situation, right? You don't have the medicine or the medical equipment, or it could be you ain't got nothing to eat. You're gonna, let's say you don't have anything to eat today. What are you gonna do? Wait until uh, August or September? Most of y'all, I mean, can you not eat? Yes, you can not eat, right? It's called, well, you can do a fast. I did a water fast for 45 days. But are most people willing and able to do that? Do you know how to end the fast? Let me tell you, if you fast and you don't end it properly, the way to do it that's safe, oh, you can actually expire. Yes, it's not practical. Okay, so we need Moorish American merchants who can interface with these nation states, use our treaty of peace and friendship, 1836, between the Moroccan Empire and the United States for North America, to bring in merchandise as a Moorish American merchant, bring it into the Moroccan Empire to make sure of two things. And this is short term, right? This is just in the context of the Trump 2025 tariffs, to make sure our people have access to, if they need asthma asthma inhalers, if they need whatever they need, okay, fruit, vegetables, food, clothing, batteries for your mobile phone, batteries for your cell phone, a new laptop, whatever it. See, let me tell y'all something. Without these products, you ain't going online. If your laptop breaks and there's nothing in the store, you ain't going online. If you're a teacher, well, guess what? You may not have students coming to your classes online. Why? Because once their equipment begins to break down or need maintenance, who's going to do it? Or let's say they don't have jobs, right? Let's say their company starts laying people off. Why? Because the trade with China is over or interrupted. So they start laying people off. So you're screwed, right? So we need to have Moorish Americans, Moorish American merchants involved in international business with China, with Vietnam, with Laos, with all nations, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines. I mean, do I need to go on? Why am I saying only Asian countries? Why I'm saying Asian countries because in Asia, this is where the manufacturing is taking place. You'll be hard pressed to go somewhere in Africa and be able to supply the needs of our people in the Moroccan Empire. They don't have manufacturing. All of that has been shifted to Asia. Y'all understand me? So, in order to interface with these nation states, we need to meet their requirements. One of the requirements is a license. Okay, not in every case, but y'all know what I'm saying. The critical things, for example, like pharmaceuticals, medicine, you need a license. You don't need a license for agriculture, uh, for mercantile. You need a license for that, but it's sure helpful if the someone from the empire, from the Moroccan Empire, issues you an ijaza, okay, as a Moorish American merchant. Okay. So if you have a license for whatever your profession is, then if the nation state says, well, okay, in order for you trade uh, to trade pharmaceuticals or to do this or to do that, you need this license. So we have the ajaza to meet that need. Y'all understand? So that we can trade. Okay. And then we don't need to go through all of these processes that many Moorish Americans are going through with the U.S. corporate, with the U.S. Corporation company. We don't need those processes in this case. Why? Because we're bringing products in ourselves, the Moroccan Empire, and through the treaty that I just mentioned, if we want to trade with the U.S., we can trade with the U.S. Okay, y'all understand? It can be boats, airplanes, cars, cell phones, electronics, mangoes. Uh, it can be cashew nuts, peanuts, peanut butter, jelly, whatever. Cosmetics, bring it right in to the Moroccan Empire, the Maghrib Al Aqsa. Okay? Let me show y'all. How much time do we have? Let me show y'all something. Hopefully, I can find it. Um, let me show y'all. Let me try to make this real for y'all. Hold on. This is what I'm talking about. All right, y'all. Now, y'all have an open mind. Hold on. Imagine. Uh oh. Do y'all see that? Okay, so this is in Vietnam. That's a huge ship. Y'all see the ship? Y'all see the containers there? Imagine if that ship was flying the Moroccan Empire flag. Okay, imagine this ship is ours. The Moroccan Empire, our flag is flying there. This is Moorish commerce. Okay, and that ship is going to sail to the Moroccan Empire, the Maghrib Al Aqsa. Okay, those products come off. We use whatever we're going to use as a people, and we sell or we trade whatever we want to trade with U.S. citizens, which would include hybrids, colonists, their proteges, their Moorish minions, 14th Amendment citizens. Okay? We can trade with Mexico and Canada. We don't have to worry about doing any U.S. processes because it's not coming to the U.S., it's coming straight to the Moroccan Empire. Y'all understand what I'm trying to say to you? This is what the Treaty of Peace and Friendship is all about. Trade, trade. Hold on. It's all about trade. Okay? Y'all see what I'm saying now? So imagine one of these containers is filled with, let's say, asthma inhalers, or medical supplies, medical equipment, pharmaceuticals, what have you. Okay? So let's say your child needs an asthma inhaler. Well, we have it. Let's say a hospital doesn't have certain medicines that they need. Okay, we as Moorish American merchants can sell our products to these hospitals or any other US citizen, right? The corporations are US citizens, they're 14th Amendment citizens. Okay? And then we don't need to worry about doing any type of process. Okay? Now remember, our ancestors, our culture, our ancestors provided or issued an ijaza to merchants. Okay? And without that ijaza, those merchants on the ship could be taken as booty and prize. All right? So the ijaza is what is referred to in our treaty, which was taken again and remixed and used abusively as a passport to steal your right to travel, as a license to steal your right to engage or to earn a living in whatever trade or profession you chose or that you are in. Y'all understand? So we need to bring it back. But I can't do it myself. I need for everyone to help me. Okay? So if you know someone in our Congress, one of our Congresses, or someone who holds a office in the Moroccan Empire, y'all share this video with them. Call them up on the phone. Don't text. Call them up on the phone. Ask them to watch this. Okay? Because this is what's going to bring us back on the world stage. And y'all know, y'all know that once we get a foot in the door, you're going to see a million Michael Jordans. You're going to see a million Magic Johnsons. You're going to see uh, a million Tony Dorsetts, right? You're going to see a million Earl Campbells. Okay. For those of y'all who may not, so these are I just mentioned names of the greatest. You're going to see a million Muhammad Ali's, a million Floyd Mayweathers. So these are the great athletes that have been produced from our bloodline. All right, y'all. So let me see if I can show another one to try to make this more concrete. This is what I'm talking about. Why is this? This man, my phone. Somehow my phone. They see. Imagine that says instead of made. Imagine that says made. Well, it doesn't even have to say made. Imagine this ship has our flag, the Moroccan Empire. Imagine our flag flying on that ship, y'all. Y'all heard me? So who has the courage and the sincerity to work with me? And I can't make any promises. Who has the courage and the sincerity to work with me to restore Moorish American international trade, Moorish American culture and tradition, the Ijaza, Ijazah. Okay? We won't, let me, We will not need to do any legal process with the US like a lot of people are doing. It will become irrelevant. Y'all understand? The only thing in this case, when we're doing our own international business, we just need to enforce the treaty and make sure that the US corporation company enforces the treaty. That's all we need to do. Okay, we don't need to do any processes. Hold on. So it doesn't have to only be with Vietnam. It can, of course, it can be any country, any nation state, y'all. Any nation state. Hold on. Okay. So merchandise are in these containers. All right. Imagine the Moroccan Empire flag on that container. Okay. Y'all imagine that. It ain't going through the US, it's coming straight to the Moroccan Empire. The US ain't got nothing to do with it. Okay. So let's say if you have a car in there, ain't got nothing to do with the US. So now you don't have to go through all of those processes, for example. Okay? Or let's say we bring the cars into the Moroccan Empire and let's say we trade with US corporations. They can't they can't stop it because it's a treaty right. Y'all understand? So we don't have to trip with the colonists anymore and do all of these processes. We are in a position to do international business right now. The question is, where is your mind? Is your mind still on trying to get stuff through processes through the US corporation? You don't need to do that now. We can bring in our own stuff. If you say that we don't need it, well, yes, we have all the natural resources, but we ain't got one single factory. We cannot, as a people right now, make a pair of underwears or a pair of panties or a bra, not even a pencil. We don't have the manufacturing and we don't own farms. We don't have the distribution enough to satisfy the needs of our people. We just don't. Okay, we just don't. Thank you. So what do we need to do? And even if we did, uh, how much? Thank you. Even if we did, our ancestors had no lack for anything, right? But we were still involved in international trade. That's right. We were still engaged in international trade, even though we had everything. We still traded. This is what the Treaty of Peace and Friendship is all about. Okay, the Moor must step back onto the international stage, take his place amongst men. Okay, y'all? So that's where we are at. All right. This can be done. And actually, it's not complicated at all. Not complicated at all. It's very clear.
Sorry,
Okay.
sir.
I know. You're close.
5 minutes. No
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Okay, y'all? It's not complicated. Not at all. All right? This is what the treaty is all about. Trade between nations. Okay? Trade between nations. I know we focus a lot on diversity of citizenship and the problems, addressing the problems that we have uh, in the Maghreb Al Aqsa, dealing with um, the hybrid Occidental colonists. But that's just one aspect of the treaty, right? The other aspect of the treaty is international trade. All right. That's the main aspect of it. Anyway, I got to go, y'all. This place is closed. Thank you for joining me. Give what I said some thought, y'all. Pass this around to people who you know who hold an office in the Moroccan Empire, and ask them to reach out to me because I don't know who everyone is. All right, y'all, and let's reactivate the Ijaza IJAZAH. Remember, it is the precursor. It is the origin of what today is now called a license and also a passport. All right, y'all. Assalamu alaikum. Islam to all the Moors. Shalom.